The private dining room at Lou Bernardine was exactly what my father had envisioned for his 60th birthday celebration. Crystal chandeliers bathed the room in a golden glow, reflecting off spotless white tablecloths, while floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a breathtaking view of Manhattan's sparkling night skyline. The staff moved with effortless grace, their service flawless, the kind of experience only a Michelin three-star restaurant could provide. Arranging the evening had set me back $3,000, but watching my dad's face light up as he cracked into his favorite lobster dish made every dollar feel like a gift well spent. "This is incredible, sweetheart," Dad said warmly, giving my hand a squeeze. "I still can't believe you managed to get us a private dining room here. Don't they book out half a year in advance?" "Something like that," I replied with a small smile, keeping to myself the fact that I'd used my company's corporate account to secure the reservation, the same account that had spent over $500,000 on events here in the past month. My older sister, Amanda, placed her wine glass back onto the table with a deliberate clink. At 32, she was the picture of Manhattan success, a polished marketing director with a resume she made sure everyone knew about. Her husband, Derek, a sharply dressed investment banker, nodded along when she spoke, as if every word deserved applause. "Jessica," Amanda began, her voice taking on that clipped, lecturing tone I had grown used to over the years. "We need to talk." "Right now?" "At Dad's birthday dinner," I asked, hoping to steer her off course. "Especially at Dad's birthday dinner." She gestured around the room with her perfectly manicured hand. "Do you even realize how much tonight is costing? Lou Bernardine isn't a casual bistro. The wine you ordered probably costs more than your monthly rent." Mom, graceful in her navy dress and pearl necklace, shifted uncomfortably. "Amanda, maybe this isn't time." "No, Mom. Someone has to say it." Amanda's voice rose slightly, catching the attention of our waiter, who was preparing to bring out the next course. "Jessica is 26 years old, living in a cramped studio in Queens, working at some mysterious consulting gig that nobody really understands. And yet, she insists on hosting extravagant dinners, buying over-the-top gifts, and pretending she has money she obviously doesn't." "I do have money," I said quietly. Derek let out a laugh, sharp and derisive. "Really? How much do you make a year?" "Because Amanda pulls in $180,000 plus bonuses, and I make $350,000. We know what real income looks like." "Stop pretending, Jessica," Amanda pressed, her voice carrying across the otherwise hushed dining room. "It's embarrassing for everyone. You're going to put yourself into debt trying to keep up with us." Michael, my 24-year-old brother who had just finished his MBA, nodded as though he were an expert on the subject. "Amanda's right. I track every expense I have, and I know exactly what it costs to live here. There's no way a so-called freelance consultant could possibly afford this." "Freelance consultant?" I asked, genuinely baffled. "Whatever it is you do with computers," Amanda said, waving her hand dismissively. "The point is, this is unsustainable. Dad's birthday should have been at a nice mid-range restaurant, not the priciest spot in Manhattan." Dad looked stricken, as though he'd somehow become the cause of this family interrogation. "If this is too much," he started. "It's not too much for me," I cut in firmly. "This is exactly where I wanted to celebrate Dad's birthday." "With what money?" Amanda shot back. "You've probably maxed out 3 credit cards just to pay for tonight." "I'm not using credit cards." Derek pulled out his phone with a smug look. "Then prove it. Show us your bank balance. Right now." "Derek," Mom said sharply, "that's completely inappropriate." "No, it's necessary," Amanda countered. "Jessica needs a wake-up call before she digs herself into a financial hole." I looked around at them, my family, the people who had always been there for me, the ones I'd worked so hard to make proud. And yet here they were, convinced I was living some reckless fantasy. "You really think I can't afford this dinner?" I asked quietly. "We know you can't afford it," Amanda said, almost triumphant. "The question is whether you'll finally admit it." Just then, the waiter appeared with the dessert course, a beautifully crafted chocolate souffle, Dad's favorite, and set it down with a professional smile that didn't quite hide his awareness of the tension at our table. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, "let me explain something to all of you." Reaching into my purse, I said, "Let me show you." I pulled out my American Express Centurion card, the exclusive, invitation-only black card with a $10,000 annual fee and no preset limit. It was made of titanium. Its weight always felt oddly comforting in my hand. Amanda scoffed, rolling her eyes. A black card? How much did you spend on that knockoff? It's not fake, Derek said with exaggerated patience before I could speak. Real Centurion cards require at least $250,000 in annual charges. They're not handed out to just anyone. Trust me, I know. I passed the card to the waiter, who took it with a professional nod, though the tension at the table was palpable. Full bill, please, I requested. Of course, Miss Anderson, he replied before heading off. Amanda sighed dramatically. This is exactly what I mean. You're so obsessed with looking successful that you're literally carrying fake credit cards. Do you even know the penalty for credit card fraud? It's not fraud, I said, forcing calm into my tone. Then why do you look like you're about to throw up? Michael chimed in, frowning. My unease wasn't because of the card, I knew it was real, but because I already suspected what would happen next. And the reason for the decline was something none of them could even imagine. 5 minutes later, the waiter returned, looking uncomfortable. Miss Anderson, I'm sorry, but there's a problem with your card. The room went still. A problem? I asked, even though I already knew what he was about to say. It was declined. Would you like to use a different payment method? The silence that followed was unbearable. Then Amanda erupted into laughter. Oh my God, Jessica, your fake black card got declined. This is absolutely priceless. Derek joined her, laughing. A fake Centurion card that doesn't even work. That's a new level of pretending. I told you she was faking, Amanda said to our parents, who looked horrified. Now we all have to deal with this bill, because Jessica wanted to play make-believe. Michael just shook his head. Jess, this is really messed up. Fake cards? Pretending to have money. I wasn't lying, I said softly, but my voice was drowned out by their judgment and mocking laughter. Ma'am, the waiter said gently, should I bring the check to someone else? No, just give me a moment, I replied, pulling out my phone. What now? Amanda asked between giggles. Calling the fake credit card company? Before I could answer, the private dining room door opened and a man in a tailored suit rushed in. I recognized him immediately. Thomas Chin, the restaurant's general manager, someone I'd collaborated with for several major events. Miss Anderson, he said, slightly out of breath. My apologies. I just heard about the payment issue. The table fell silent instantly. Thomas, I said evenly, is there a problem with the payment system? He shook his head quickly. No, the system is fine. The problem is on our end. We still owe you $500,000 from last month's catering contract. Your card was flagged because our accounting team can't charge someone we owe that much money to. The silence this time was different, heavy, absolute. I could hear the faint jazz music from the main dining room, the distant clinking of silverware, but at our table, not a sound. $500,000, my father whispered. Yes, Thomas confirmed, glancing at his tablet. From the Morrison Industries Gala, the Goldman Sachs private dinner, and the United Nations reception, all catered by Anderson Events. We've been ready to release the payment, but your accounting team requested we hold it until after the quarterly review. That's fine, Thomas, I said calmly. Please just come to tonight's dinner. Would you like me to make this scene even more dramatic and satisfying? Perhaps showing Amanda and Derek's complete embarrassment and your parents' sudden shift in tone after learning the truth? The manager's apology seemed to hang in the air as he hurried off, leaving the table in a stunned silence. Anderson Events. Mom asked in a confused whisper. My company, I replied simply. Your company? Amanda repeated, barely above a whisper, her expression unreadable. Yes, I said, keeping my voice even. It's the event planning and catering business I've been building for the last 4 years. Derek stared at me like I'd just confessed to being an undercover spy. Wait, you own an event planning company? I don't just own a company, I said calmly. I run the largest luxury event planning firm on the entire East Coast. We handle corporate galas, weddings, high-end private parties, and cultural events for some of the wealthiest clients and biggest corporations in the world. But you said you were a consultant, Michael interjected. I do consult, I said with a small shrug. I consult with people about their events. Technically, I never lied. Amanda's face had gone completely pale. How big is this company? She managed to ask. I unlocked my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward them. Last year, we brought in $47 million in revenue, I said matter-of-factly. This year, we're on track to hit $68 million. Dad blinked rapidly, almost in shock. $68 million? Yes. And our client list includes 12 Fortune 100 companies, over 40 ultra-wealthy individuals worth more than $50 million each. And we're the exclusive planners for the United Nations, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the New York Philharmonic. Mom's mouth fell open. The Met? You mean the gala I went to last month? The one that raised $12 million for cancer research. Yes, I said softly. That was my team's event. I designed and managed everything. Derek's fingers were flying over his phone. His eyes went wide as he read aloud. Jessica Anderson, Forbes 30 Under 30, named one of the most influential event planners in New York. Estimated net worth $25 million. $28 million, I corrected quietly. As of last quarter, Amanda looked like she might actually be sick. Michael stared at me as though I had been living a secret life this whole time. You're worth $28 million, he asked weakly. $28 million, not counting the value of the business itself, my real estate, or my investments. But you live in Queens, Michael said, almost accusingly. I live in a penthouse in Long Island City, I corrected him gently, with a private terrace overlooking Manhattan. The building has its own helipad. Helipad, Amanda echoed. It makes getting to Hampton's events faster, I explained simply. Just then, the waiter returned with a chilled bottle of champagne. Compliments of the house, Miss Anderson, he said, pouring it carefully into our glasses. Our manager wanted to apologize once again for the earlier confusion. The room seemed unusually quiet as the bubbles fizzed in our glasses. My family sat staring at me, as if trying to reconcile the version of me they thought they knew with the woman sitting across from them now. I don't get it, Dad said finally, shaking his head slowly. You have all this, and you let us think you were barely scraping by. I never once said I was struggling, I replied evenly. You live so simply, Amanda said in disbelief. You don't wear designer clothes. You drive a regular car. Because I'm always working, I said with a faint smile. I work 18-hour days. I don't have time to parade around with fancy handbags. My clients need me to be professional and focused, not flashy. And as for my car, it's practical, reliable, and doesn't attract attention. Mom's eyes were glistening now. But why keep all this from us? Because I needed to know you loved me for me, not for what I could give you or the status I could bring. I wanted to build something entirely on my own, without anyone being able to say I succeeded because of family help or connections. We don't even have connections in event planning, Derek pointed out. Exactly, I said with a small, proud smile. Which means everything I've built is mine and mine alone. Amanda was still scrolling on her phone, shaking her head in disbelief. You did the Bloomberg Foundation Gala, the one Vanity Fair wrote about, the Rockefeller wedding, the Goldman Sachs anniversary, the UN 75th anniversary celebration. Michael cut her off. Wait, the UN celebration? That was on the news. They said it was the most expensive private event in New York history. It was, I said softly. $12 million budget. 6 months of planning. And yes, I handled every single detail, from concept to execution. Dad leaned forward, his hand covering mine, pride and awe written all over his face. I had no idea, he whispered. Absolutely no idea. The moment my mom took my hand, her voice was soft but full of emotion. Sweetheart, I'm proud of you. But why keep all this a secret? I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Because this is exactly what I was afraid of, I said, gesturing at everyone around the table. I was afraid that once you knew about the money, you'd look at me differently. That suddenly what I say would carry more weight. That you'd stop seeing me as just Jessica. You've never been just Jessica, Mom said firmly. You're our daughter. But would you have said that an hour ago? I asked quietly, when you all thought I was a struggling consultant. The table fell silent because we all knew the answer. Amanda was the first to speak. I feel like such an idiot, she said softly. I spent the entire night lecturing you about budgeting when you're apparently wealthier than Derek and I will ever be. You're not an idiot, I told her gently. You were trying to look out for me, even if it came off as humiliating, because you care about my future enough to have an awkward conversation. Derek was still on his phone reading something. This article says you employ 200 people full-time and another 500 as contractors. 237 full-time employees. As of last week, I corrected with a small smile. We just brought on a new creative director. You actually have employees? Michael asked wide-eyed. Yes. We have offices in Manhattan and the Hamptons, a warehouse in Queens, and work with vendors all across the country, I explained. Amanda shook her head and laughed. And all this time we thought you were broke. Not broke, I said with a shrug. Just not interested in flaunting anything. That's when Thomas Chin came back with a sleek leather folder. Ms. Anderson, everything has been taken care of and charged to your account. Anything else we can do for you tonight? Yes, I said after a moment's thought. I'd like to reserve the private wine cellar for next month. I'm throwing a surprise anniversary party for my parents. For how many guests? Let's make it 100. I want the whole extended family there. Absolutely. My coordinator will be in touch with your office tomorrow. When he left, I noticed tears streaming down Mom's face. A surprise anniversary party, she whispered. 35 years of marriage deserves something beautiful, I said. I was thinking a jazz trio, your favorite flowers, and that chocolate dessert Dad loves. But the cost, Dad began. Dad, I interrupted with a smile. I plan $12 million events for my clients. This one will be the most meaningful event of my year, and money won't even factor in. Amanda was still shaking her head in disbelief. You're doing all this because you're rich. No, I said, because you're my family, and I love you. The champagne had been poured by then, and Dad raised his glass with trembling hands. To my daughter, Jessica, who's been full of surprises all these years. To family, I said softly. To the people who love you, even when they think you're making terrible choices. To family, everyone echoed, and for the first time all night, the laughter felt easy and warm. Michael had one last question as we finished our drinks. That black card that got declined, it's actually real? Completely real, I said with a laugh. Centurion cards get declined if the merchant actually owes you more than what you're trying to spend. Happens more often than you'd think in my line of work. Events require big upfront payments, and sometimes the accounts get messy. Amanda shook her head. My sister, the secret millionaire. Not a secret anymore, I said. Mom looked at me intently. But are you happy, Jessica? After everything you've built, with all this success, are you happy? I looked around at the people who'd raised me, worried about me, supported me through every stage of life, even when they had no idea what I was really doing. Yes, I said finally. I love the challenge. I love creating perfect moments for people, and I love that I can use my success to do things like this, like giving Dad the birthday dinner he deserves. At Lou Bernardine, Dad added with a teary smile. At the best restaurant in New York, I said proudly. Even when we thought you couldn't afford it, Amanda teased. Especially then, I said, because you care enough to worry about me. Derek raised his glass once more. To Jessica Anderson, event planning mogul, and apparently the most successful person any of us know. To Jessica, Mom corrected gently, who remembered that family matters more than keeping secrets. As we left the restaurant, stepping into the cool Manhattan air, I felt lighter. My family finally knew the truth, and somehow that made everything I'd built feel even more real. Next time, Amanda said, slipping her arm through mine, maybe just start with, by the way, I'm a multi-millionaire, instead of letting us panic over a declined card. Deal, I said, laughing. As long as you promise to keep worrying about me. I still need my big sister looking out for me. Always, she said with a smile. But maybe with less public humiliation next time. Where's the fun in that? I teased. The walk back to our cars was full of stories about the business, my celebrity clients, and plans for the anniversary party. But mostly, it was full of the kind of easy conversation you only get when you stop hiding who you really are. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give your family isn't expensive dinners or fancy parties. It's letting them see the real you. even if the real you just happens to be worth $28 million.